The sitting is resumed. It is question time to the Minister for Communities, and we will start with listed questions. Question 1 has been withdrawn. I call Mr. Philip Brett.
Number 2.
Minister.
Principal Deputy Speaker, my officials are working closely with the Irish FA to take forward the development of a national training centre. National training centres are common in other jurisdictions, and the Irish FA considers a national training centre to be a crucially important component of its future strategy to develop football locally. It's expected the Department will make a small contribution to the funding for the development of a national training centre from the current sub-regional budget of £36.2 million, with the remainder of the funds provided by the FA. A steering group has been established to assist the Irish FA in the development of a robust business case to help secure a suitable site to locate a national training centre.
Philip Brett.
Thank you, Madam Principal Deputy Speaker, and can I thank the Minister for his update and his commitment to football. Minister, in so doing, can you also commit to releasing the sub-regional stadium funding, which for far too long has been held to political ransom by previous ministers?
Minister.
Well, Principal Deputy Speaker, the member is absolutely right to highlight the sub-regional stadia fund. We all know how important it is in this House. There have been a lot of questions that have been asked of me on it, and I can inform the member that significant work has been carried out in the last 3 months since I came in to office, and I'm pleased to report that I will soon be in a position to make further announcements on that. Of course, to stay in the good graces of the Speaker, that will be made to this House first, of course. That will impact performance clubs, as well as grassroots football and the National Training Centre. And I'm sure that everyone in this House will also allow me to take this opportunity to congratulate Larne Football Club in getting one step closer in terms of the league, though I am worried that I'm sitting beside and in front of a Linfield fan, so maybe I should leave it there.
Jim Master for supplementary.
Given the Minister's commitment to the Casement Park Euro project, can I ask him, what will be the actual physical legacy for football from the Euros?
Principal Deputy Speaker, the Minister, the member is correct to raise the impact of the legacy of the Euros. As I've said in this House and elsewhere, it's important that a footballing tournament has a footballing legacy, and I intend that the sub-regional stadia programme, as well as other work that I intend to carry out in this area, will mean that we do have a legacy and a much improved footballing legacy right across Northern Ireland.
Thank you, Minister. I call Michelle McIlveen. Minister.
Principal Deputy Speaker, I'm aware that there is a significant concern that intimidation points are abused. I can confirm that the Housing Executive undertakes a robust verification process to ensure points are awarded to those who meet the specified criteria. However, I believe change is needed to ensure that victims of trauma or violence, including victims of domestic abuse, are treated more consistently. People who are genuinely victims of violence must receive the priority they deserve, but we must also ensure that the system cannot be abused. As part of the ongoing fundamental review of social housing allocations, I will consider the future options for intimidation points. Independent research on this subject is close to completion. This will inform the options for future provision for the assessment, verification and prioritisation of housing need for victims of violence.
Michelle McIlveen for supplementary.
Thank you. The Minister will appreciate that intimidation can cover a lot of scenarios. Take an example, an individual who's intimidated out of his home due to his alleged criminal activity or alleged affiliation to another illegal organisation. And there are instances where those individuals are simply moved down the street to another estate, inevitably bringing difficulties to the residents of the new estate. The Housing Executive and Housing Associations say that their hands are tied. Will the Minister look into how social housing providers can adequately address this issue to support the right of existing tenants to peaceful enjoyment of their properties free from undue interference?
Minister.
Well, the member gives an example that I'm sure will be familiar to many members, and she is correct to highlight the importance of protecting the rights of existing tenants and for peaceful protection of their own property. That is what I intend to do as Minister, and as well as looking at the issue of intimidation points, I also intend to keep under review policies and sanctions that will allow the Housing Executive and housing associations to take action against those who are causing problems in their neighbourhoods.
Call Kelly Armstrong, supplementary.
Thank you, Principal Deputy Speaker. Can the Minister please provide an update on Proposal 7 in the fundamental review of the allocation system?
Minister.
Principal Deputy Speaker, I am sorry I don't have number 7, not quite sure which one that is, but yes, so that is currently part of the review and one of the recommendations for progress to be made, but I can give her that specific information. I am pleased that the recommendations that were agreed have been moving forward at pace. I understand some have been slower than we would have liked. I intend to move those forward as well as the outstanding ones to consider those when the report comes through.
Call Daniel McCrossan.
Deputy Speaker, and thank you, Minister. Minister, could you provide any detail as to the numbers of people that have abused the intimidation point system over each of the last 3 years?
Minister.
No, I'm unable to provide that because, of course, we don't have concrete evidence of exactly who has or who has not been abusing them. A lot of the information that we will have will be on anecdotal evidence, and that's not always possible to verify. However, it is an issue that is raised frequently with me, and I look forward to receiving the report so that I can base my decision on the evidence that's provided.
Keir Ferguson for supplementary.
Speaker, I welcome obviously the Minister saying that in relation to better verifying intimidation points, and you're going to see clarity in that. Can it also be broadened to protect those at risk from domestic abuse?
Sir.
This is an issue that has been raised frequently, and I know there's a sense of unfairness that issues such as domestic abuse are not included. Protecting the most vulnerable in our society is central, and some of those who have been subject to domestic abuse obviously fall in to that category. Under the current scheme, those who are subject to intimidation receive 200 points, but someone who leaves their home as a result of domestic abuse can be allocated 70 points for homelessness and up to 40 primary social need points for violence or the threat of violence, a total of 110 points. So there is a system there in place that can be of some assistance if they fall into that category, but work is ongoing on that, and I will be taking that forward.
Call Colin Gildernew.
Armagad Priolas Concordia, and could I also apologise for not being in my place yesterday for topical questions. Ceist Iver Ceathair Lidahul, Minister, question number 4, please.
Minister.
My department has a statutory obligation to produce a report on the operation of existing welfare supplementary payment schemes before the 31st of March 2025. It will then be for the Executive to consider next steps in relation to this.
Colin.
Minister, would you agree that it's much more likely to be families with children who receive the benefit cap mitigation payment, and that removing it would push those children further into poverty?
Minister.
Yes, there certainly is evidence in terms of the lack of mitigations in GB compared to what we have in place have had that impact. It's my understanding that the number of families affected are going down. I think that will be a smaller cost to the Executive in future years. But as to all of the mitigations that we have in place, I think it's right and proper that we examine them all, examine their effectiveness, and make sure that the money that we have available to help tackle the issues that the member and others have raised in this chamber, especially during our debates on poverty last week, are addressed.
Sean Mulholland.
Minister, are there any alternative measures being considered to address the needs of those who might be impacted if the benefit cap welfare supplementary payment isn't extended?
Minister.
Member will be aware of the report that I have received, the Independent Advisory Panel report on welfare mitigations. That sets out the issues and potential costs of some of the mitigations that are in place currently, but as well as that also offers additional mitigations that could be put in place. Obviously it's not for me to commit to any of these right now. That will be a decision for the Executive, but as I said to the Chairman of the Committee, it's important that we use the limited resources that we have in the way that helps to target and impact most on those issues such as poverty.
Paul Brown Kingston.
Deputy Speaker, and I thank the Minister for his answers so far. I wish to ask, can the Minister advise how much the current mitigations would cost and what is the projected costs would be from the additional welfare mitigations highlighted in the report?
Yes, so the current mitigations, not including the implementation and delivery of them, but the funding that is paid out is 24 million in terms of the social sector size criteria, 2 million for the benefit cap, 122,000 for the loss of care payments, 113,000 for the time limiting of employment and support allowance, and 354,000 for disability living allowance to personal independence payment. In terms of the total cost, it'll be difficult for us to estimate the total cost of the potential additional mitigations. Some of those are hard to estimate, but so far, of the ones which we do have figures for, probably in and around £700 million.
Andy Allen.
Speaker, and the Minister has highlighted the important work of the independent panel, and there are many important mitigations within that report that we would love to be able to fund and take forward, and I appreciate the Minister is not going to commit to those today, but can I ask the Minister for his views on the CARES recognition payment, please?
Minister.
Yeah, Mr. Principal Deputy Speaker, the member's absolutely correct that this will obviously all be subject to executive agreement and budget being in place. I think that our carers do a fantastic job, and in so many of these areas we have people as carers or people working in the voluntary and community sector that take huge pressure off what would otherwise be placed on government departments, and I think that should be taken into consideration.
Call Connie Egan.
Madam Principal Deputy Speaker.
Madam Principal Deputy Speaker, I eagerly await the upcoming Paralympic Games in Paris for the opportunity to watch athletes from Northern Ireland competing on the world stage. Northern Ireland has a number of noteworthy para-athletes, including, for example, Claire Taggart from my own constituency and James McSorley, both Paralympians who have represented Team GB and NI at recent games.
Connie Egan for supplementary.
Thank you, and thank you, Minister. I agree, we have absolutely fantastic para-athletes here in Northern Ireland. I'll give a shout out to Kelly Gallagher from my own constituency, who was one of the first women in Team GB to win gold in para-alpine games. Can I please ask the Minister what plans you and your department have to ensure that people with disabilities can access sports across Northern Ireland?
Minister.
And Madam Principal Deputy Speaker, I should have fully answered the member's question and said that £37,000 has been provided to individual Paralympic athletes through the Athlete Award programme, and £663,502 has come from Sport NI since 2020 to Disability Sport Northern Ireland. The member raises what support we can give for those that are disabled to take part in sport. This is of interest to me. I am pleased that we will be bringing forward a disability strategy soon, which will address the sporting element of this. But overall, I want to see more people take part in sport, especially those who have been underrepresented in the past, such as women and disabled people. And I'm more than happy to meet with those. I think I have an invitation in from those that are interested in this issue as we put together the disability strategy.
Called Cheryl Brownlee.
Thank you, Madam Principal Deputy Speaker, and thank you to the Minister for his positive responses so far. Could he also detail what practical support will also be provided for these athletes?
Yes, Sport NI offers its facilities at the Sports Institute facility in Jordanstown in our constituency, which seeks to support national governing bodies by helping to improve individual athlete sport performance through the provision of its science, medicine and support programmes. This includes performance management, performance skills, performance analysis, performance nutrition, strength and conditioning and sports medicine.
Paula Bradshaw's not in her place. I'm going to move on to Diane Dodds.
Number 7.
Minister.
The faith-based sector plays an important role in society across Northern Ireland, and the Department works closely with faith-based organisations who are involved in delivering projects and support to communities to help address societal issues including childcare, deprivation, health and well-being and access to critical services. In the last 5 years, the Department has provided over £5.6 million in resource and capital funding through various programmes to a range of faith-based organisations for community development and support programmes. The Department has also invested some £375,000 over the last 5 years as part of our infrastructure support to promote the role of faith-based organisations in serving the needs of communities across Northern Ireland.
Diane Dodds for supplementary.
Thank you, Principal Deputy Speaker, and thanks to the Minister. The Minister is aware, and I know he is aware personally, of the huge role that faith-based organisations play within our community. Too often they have to sort of have their faith as a secondary element in order to ask for grant support either from government or from wider agencies. Will the Minister commit to looking at this element of the support for faith-based organisations and acknowledge the significant community services that they provide?
Minister.
I'm absolutely happy to look at that, Madam Principal Deputy Speaker. The member will be aware that many of the services that were originally provided to people right across Northern Ireland in terms of schools and hospitals originally came from a faith-based background. That continues today. We have many churches and faith-based organisations involved in various anti-poverty measures, involved in food banks, in mental health support, and in particular in youth and children's work. And that is particularly significant here in Northern Ireland. We can think of many of the youth organisations. They provide an incredible service, especially to children and young people, and we should look at the ways in which we can ensure they are helped to deliver some of the support services that they provide.
Call Saoirse Eastwood.
Thank you, Principal Deputy Speaker. I'd like to ask the Minister, does he have any intentions...
Sorry, Saoirse, it's just your question. Call your question out and then.
Yeah, number 8.
Thank you.
I am committed to ensuring that social housing tenants are not left behind on the pathway to net zero by 2050. My department has developed a housing supply strategy which acknowledges the importance of ensuring we have good quality homes. One of the proposed long-term commitments of the strategy is to ensure there is an emphasis on improving the energy efficiency of homes and ensuring a just transition to decarbonised solutions. My department has also supported the Housing Executive in securing and utilising €22.951 million from the European Regional Development Fund for their energy efficiency and social housing programme, with match funding from the Housing Executive. The programme improved the thermal efficiency of 1,406 non-traditional construction homes within the Housing Executive stock. A further £57.5 million has been made available for the Housing Executive's thermal improvement and low carbon programmes in the financial year 24-25. My officials are also working on developing the NIHE revitalisation programme and a potential future retrofit funding model for registered housing associations. Given this level of investment in social home decarbonisation, alongside the severe financial and budgetary constraints that all departments are currently facing, I have no plans to introduce a separate social housing decarbonisation fund.
Saoirse for a supplementary.
Thank you, Principal Deputy Speaker. Sorry about that, one of those weeks and it's only Tuesday, but sure. I thank the Minister for his response, and I just wonder, in terms of the implementation of a social housing decarbonisation fund, how would that help to achieve net zero targets?
Well, I think some of the work that I've just outlined will significantly contribute to our net zero targets, because we understand how much residential buildings are contributing to meeting those targets. However, for me, what's even more important is making sure that people have a warm home to live in. And we know the health impacts that can have. We know how it can impact upon young people's educational attainment. So for me, having the most energy efficient homes and warm homes that help protect people and protect their incomes is one of the most important reasons for us to take this on.
Ciara Ferguson.
Speaker, could the Minister outline the most up-to-date projected scale of social housing investment required to address the backlog in maintenance and reflect decarbonisation costs to future-proof our social homes?
Thank you.
I don't have the specific figure with me, but in terms of the overall budget required to bring our homes up to standard, including the energy efficiency measures and this schemes that will need to take place to help us reach net zero, we're talking in the billions of pounds.
Sinead McLaughlin for supplementary.
Thank you, Speaker. As you have said, Minister, there are huge health benefits to decarbonisation. Currently, some of our older housing stock is actually contributing to making people sick. We've people coming into our offices with asthma, COPD, and ultimately working it back into the state of their houses. How can you address these health inequalities in the provision of housing that you are overseeing?
Yes, unfortunately, that's not something that's limited to any one area. I think all of us will have had constituents that have come in to us highlighting the issues around some of the housing stock that we have here in Northern Ireland. I think that's why it's essential that we invest more. That may require a change to how the Housing Executive in particular operates. And that's something that I'm determined to take forward. If we can change that system, we can change how it's funded, we can then improve our social housing stock so that people can live in warmer and healthier homes.
Deborah Erskine.
Thank you. And I thank the Minister for his answers so far. It is important, and I welcome the fact that he said about warmer homes. And just following on, I suppose what more can be done to retrofit the existing housing stock with renewable energy solutions, taking into account what the Minister has already said? Thank you.
Yeah, the member's absolutely right to highlight the renewable energy solutions that can be deployed as well in order to make sure that we have more energy efficient homes. If a home has a roof, which all should have, it provides great opportunity for householders to generate some of their own energy as well through the installation of solar panels. And I think that that is something that we should all be looking at and considering, especially right now where the price of solar panels has gone so low. I think that is a way that not only helps us to meet our targets, but importantly allows people to keep more of their money in their pockets.
Call Doug Beattie.
Please. The impact of capacity restrictions on water, sewage infrastructure and residential development is a significant one. It's an issue that I know is highlighted regularly in discussions between my department and stakeholders regarding social housing delivery. In relation to the Social Housing Development Programme, in the event of a confirmed and significant reduction in capital budget allocation for Northern Ireland Water over the coming years, the Northern Ireland Housing Executive have been advised it is their understanding that existing housing developments which are under construction should generally still be permitted to connect to the Northern Ireland Water Network at completion stage. From 24-25 programme year onwards, it's my understanding that any reduction in the Northern Ireland Water capital budget will have a knock-on impact on the timetable for planned upgrade works over the coming years. Whilst this will not necessarily preclude new social housing developments from being approved and developed, it will mean that the current position, whereby the majority of new developments require a site-specific Northern Ireland Water engineering solution in order to progress, will continue for a longer period.
Doug Beattie for a supplementary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank the Minister for his answer, and in part he answered a bit of it, but I mean there are some already areas which are at capacity, with owners having now to install their own septic tanks for maybe just not shy of £10,000, and this is increasing the cost of social housing. Will the Minister consider a scheme to match funds so we can ensure that social housing continue to be built in areas where we are at capacity?
Well, the process that I had just outlined inevitably will add delays and cost to the planning approvals process for new social housing developments. I'm open to all ideas about how we can progress this, but ultimately we need to deal with this at the root cause, which is making sure we have the necessary wastewater infrastructure in place, and that's where it should be directed in the meantime.
Philip Brett.
Speaker, and given the pressure then on providing new social homes as a result of lack of stage capacity, does the Minister not agree with me that it's nonsensical to demolish houses in areas of high social housing demand? And I think particularly of my ongoing campaign to save Abbotskull House in North Belfast and Rathcoole, where residents want to remain but the Housing Executive want to put them out of their homes and knock them down. Can the Minister commit to supporting my campaign to keep these families in their homes?
I'm grateful to the member for raising this with me yet again. He has been consistent in his desire to see these homes remain. I think it is important that we look at the cost of the renovations that may need to take place, but we also need to make sure that there are homes there that can be lived in. We also have to take into consideration the views of local residents as well when it comes to these issues, and many want to ensure that they continue to have a supply of housing. My priority is to make sure that we have housing. We'll look at whatever options will help us to achieve that.
Mark Durkin for supplementary.
Given the capacity issues faced by Northern Ireland Water and the impact that's having on the delivery of housing, particularly social housing, could the Minister outline any collaboration or conversations even he has had with his counterpart, the Minister for Infrastructure, on addressing this issue?
Yes, absolutely. My officials regularly engage with counterparts within other departments, and the Department of Infrastructure in particular. I will be bringing a housing supply strategy to the Executive soon, because I recognise that this is not just an issue for one department to tackle. We will need to have cross-party, cross-departmental working, and I believe that I will be able to get that housing supply strategy to the Executive and get that buy-in so we can address those issues.
Question 10 has been withdrawn. I call Joanne Bunting. Please. Minister.
The Housing Executive has a range of powers at its disposal for dealing with antisocial behaviour issues. My department keeps these under review to ensure that they are working effectively. To this end, as part of a joint public consultation with the Department of Justice, my department recently published proposals to amend existing antisocial behaviour legislation, including grounds for possession and injunctions against antisocial behaviour. Officials will review the responses received, and I will consider the recommendations and next steps in due course.
Joanne for supplementary.
Thank you, Madam Principal Deputy Speaker. I suppose the issue here is that there are tenants who have problems, and there are other tenants who willfully cause mayhem and misery wherever they live and wherever they are moved, because the Housing Executive is obliged to house them. They are persistent offenders, and it seems that the thresholds to deal with them are extremely high. What measures will the Minister take to ensure that whatever is brought forward will have the teeth to deal with these people who actually wreck the reputations of given areas? Thank you.
Minister.
Yeah, I'm grateful to the member for her question and for raising this, because, as I said to Michelle McIlveen a few moments ago, this is a real issue, and problem tenants don't just cause problems for themselves or even just their immediate neighbours. Sometimes it can be quite a number throughout the area in which they live. So the first thing we need to do is make sure that the Housing Executive and housing associations are able to use the powers that they currently have, and where changes are needed, we need to make sure that those are put in place. And in addition to this, as part of the review of the housing selection scheme, my department is committed to taking forward legislation that will implement changes to eligibility for social housing and full homelessness duty status where there has been unacceptable behaviour. Such a bill would be subject to the Executive's legislative priorities, and I'd be more than happy to discuss this issue with the member further.
Matthew O'Toole.
Speaker, Minister, you mentioned the joint review being undertaken between your department and the Justice Department. Are you specifically planning or intending a joint announcement on next steps with the Justice Minister, and when might we expect that?
So the joint consultation was launched in November time. It ran until March, and there was a further extension then granted to the 5th of April. I'm going to be briefed on the responses to the consultation and next steps in due course, and I'm happy to keep the House informed.
Kelly, very quickly.
Minister, thank you very much. Whenever the Housing Executive are able to be provided with data that can help with the removal of problem tenants, the same data is not able to be provided to housing associations. Will the Minister consider reviewing the policy to allow that to happen?
Minister.
I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, that ends the period for listed questions. We'll now move on to 15 minutes for topical questions, and I call Daniel McCrossan.
Thank you, Principal Deputy Speaker. Minister, at last week's Communities Committee, the committee was told that temporary promotions were only given in exceptional circumstances and would aim to be kept restricted to a year. Why, Minister, has there been promotions of 3,499 up to 1 year, 725 up to 2 years, 201 up to 3 years, 67 up to 4 years, 18 up to 5 years, and 10 temporary promotions lasting over 7 years?
Minister.
Clearly, Madam Principal Deputy Speaker, that's not something that we are happy or content with. It is something, work is ongoing. In fact, there has been some movement on that even in recent weeks. This is an issue that I have raised with the Permanent Secretary, as the member will have done last week as well. The level of temporary promotions in DFC, however, is in line with other departments across the Northern Ireland Civil Service. My department operates in line with the temporary promotions policy that sets out how they are to be managed, and the duration of temporary promotion also relates to individuals and not specific posts.
Daniel McCrossan.
For that. I think what the Minister is saying, it's awful, but we're no different than every department, so every department is awful. Minister, this is an unacceptable situation. I'm sure you will agree that the huge number of temporary promotions within your department is a cause of concern for existing staff in terms of available opportunities for them, and isn't best practice when it comes to your department or any other in this executive.
And as I've said, I'm committed to reducing the number and duration of temporary promotion arrangements, and my officials are engaged with NICS HR to progress recruitment competitions that will fill more posts substantively, and to improve and speed up recruitment processes through the NICS People Plan.
David Honeyford.
Thank you, Principal Deputy Speaker. Minister, your party colleague in Education, Minister Paul Givan, is pressing ahead with a large £400 million capital school project in Omagh without a business case and without security of future funding. Yet the tender documents for Casement Park have been ready and have been held by you for almost 2 months. Can you explain what's the delay and what the difference of approach for Casement Park is?
Minister.
Quite simply, Madam Principal Deputy Speaker, we are waiting on funding clarity from partners, including the UK Government, and once we receive that clarity, we will consider next steps.
David Honeyford.
Thank you, Principal Deputy Speaker. And Minister, given the delivery timeline is extremely tight for Casement Park, I asked you a question about why it's good for one DUP minister, but it's not good for the other. The Education Minister is pressing ahead with a business case and without security of funding. So could the Minister ensure and give us a firm commitment and reassure this House that he will not let the tender process or any further process delay or drag to the point where we miss out on the Euro 2028?
Well, as I've already said to the member, this is dependent upon the funding from the UK Government. My understanding for the Strule Education Campus is that the Minister went to the Executive and received the funding it needed to begin that project. We are not in the situation where we have the funding clarity that we need.
Declan McAleer.
Minister, you will be aware that, reply to a recent question to myself, you indicate that the regeneration focus of your department is on populations of 5,000 or more. Now, in rural constituencies like my own of West Roma, there's only 2 settlements of more than 5,000 people. Will you consider reviewing this policy?
Minister.
Yeah. Madam Principal Deputy Speaker, whilst my department is responsible for urban regeneration, I understand the issues faced by our rural communities. I come from a rural community, I represent a rural community, and my predecessor, Paul Givan, when he was then Communities Minister, indicated he would like to extend the department's scheme to regenerate public spaces to small towns and villages. It was hoped that we would have had a phased approach, beginning with settlements of over 2,500 persons and working closely with local councils and the Department for Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs. However, this was dependent upon the resources being made available, but no further funds were found to take this forward. Since then, and particularly in response to COVID-19, my department has led on the COVID-19 recovery, revitalisation and small settlements programmes in partnership with DFI and DAERA, and the cross-departmental nature of these regeneration activities has been clearly demonstrated, confirming the need for the Executive to take this forward.
Declan McAleer for supplementary.
I welcome the response to the Minister. And is the Minister, in light of his response, is he satisfied that his department is fulfilling their statutory responsibilities on the Rural Needs Act to pay due regard to the needs of rural areas when developing and implementing policies? Chair Margaret.
Yes, I do believe that we are adhering to our statutory responsibilities under law. However, I do believe that we can always do more than simply just follow the law. We can go up and above what is required. That's why I'm always more than happy to work with my ministerial counterpart in DAERA to see what other schemes can be put in place to support regeneration in rural settlements, such as my department's Village Catalyst Grant Scheme, and the Architectural Heritage Fund, and through the Housing Executive.
Nick Matheson.
Madam Principal Deputy Speaker, can the Minister confirm a time frame for when local government remote meetings regulations will be brought before the Assembly, further to the papers on this issue tabled with the Communities Committee?
Yes, I hope to be in a position to bring those forward in the coming weeks.
Nick Matheson for supplementary.
Thank the Minister for his answer. The Minister's papers tabled with the committee detail that there will be conditions that the member must meet in order to attend a remote meeting of Council. Can the Minister advise what these conditions will be?
So my approach to this has been largely to leave this in the hands of the councils themselves. There will need to be changes that are made to standing orders. I certainly have my own views on how and when a member should be allowed to attend remotely, but ultimately I believe that that should be a decision for the councils themselves.
Call Philip Brett.
Deputy Speaker. Minister, one of the biggest causes of fuel poverty for our constituents is the cost of boiler replacement schemes. Following the closure of the boiler replacement scheme by your department before Christmas, could I have an update please on any plans that you have to bring in a new scheme to support families across Northern Ireland?
Yes, in September 23 the closure of the boiler replacement scheme was announced due to budgetary constraints. In the previous 2 years the scheme had seen a significant decrease in both inquiries and applications received. The decision was made to consolidate and protect the affordable warmth scheme, which was kept open. Now I understand there are still people who need help to heat their homes, and the affordable warmth scheme is currently open to applications and set to run until March 26. This scheme continues to assist low-income owner-occupiers and households in the private rented sector with an annual household income of less than £23,000. My department is currently in the early stages of developing a new fuel poverty intervention that will replace the current affordable warmth scheme when it ends, and obviously a boiler replacement element could be part of that.
Philip Brett for supplementary.
Minister, and can I welcome your commitment to developing a new policy support on that. But like you, Minister, we were all elected on these benches of helping working families, and one of the main concerns with these schemes is the low threshold income, and meaning that hard-pressed families across North Belfast were not able to avail of this support. Will the Minister look at raising the income threshold to ensure that working families can avail of this scheme?
Principal Deputy Speaker, obviously we are in the early stages of the redevelopment of this scheme, and there were lots of different factors that we will have to consider, the different elements and the issue that he's raised on eligibility. But I absolutely believe with him that some of the most hard-pressed people in our communities are working families, the working poor, those who so often miss out on other benefits that are available, and I believe these are people that need our help and our support, and that will be something that drives the decision making in relation to this, making sure that we can help those that are most hard pressed.
Brian Kingston.
Madam Principal Deputy Speaker, I wish to ask the Minister, as he'll be aware, in Westland Estate in North Belfast, the community has long desired to have a replacement community centre. Can the Minister set out for us what support his department has provided to progress that desire?
Minister.
Yes, the member frequently raises the Westland estate with me. I'll have to come and visit it sometime because I've heard so much about it from the member. I understand that the proposal to build a new community facility serving the Westland estate is being managed by the Executive Office through its Urban Villages programme. My officials have been engaging with community representatives in the area over a sustained period to support and develop community infrastructure in the area through the Westland Community Group, and this is being delivered through the Capacity Support Project.
Brian Kingston for supplementary.
Thank you. Thank the Minister for that reply and for that commitment. And could I ask him just to set out his department's financial support for community development in the Westland area over recent times?
Yes, Principal Deputy Speaker. In November 2023, my department issued a neighbourhood renewal grant funding agreement to provide salary and programme costs to enable Belfast City Council to engage a community development worker to support the group for the period November 23 to March 25. £12,007.09 was awarded for the period from December 23 to March 24. Funding for 24-25 remains to be determined. However, £8,417 has been awarded for the first quarter of the year in line with funding procedures for the neighbourhood renewal funded organisations, while the department's budget allocation is clarified.
Emma Sheeran.
Concordia. Minister, could I ask you for an update on the sexual orientation strategy, please?
Minister.
Madam Principal Deputy Speaker, my department has responsibility for a number of the social inclusion strategies. I'm currently considering evidence, advice and briefing on each of those. They're at different stages, but when I have an update I will of course bring that to the House.
I'm Sharon for supplementary.
Cormagat, and thank you, Minister, for that answer. Minister, in the absence of a Bill of Rights for the North, we're obviously at a rights deficit here, and particularly groups like the LGBTQA plus community who suffer that very vividly. I wonder, would you agree with me of the importance of this strategy in the first instance? And secondly, will you commit to liaison with the sector on the specifics of this strategy?
Of course, Principal Deputy Speaker, I'm happy to engage with anyone the member wants to bring to speak to me that will help inform the development of these strategies.
Neil McAllister.
Deputy Speaker, the Minister will be aware that his department granted licence to Milltown Cemetery to do exploratory works regarding the bottom of the cemetery that included the baby graves and unmarked burial plots. Given the information that has come to light, will the Minister use his power to enforce that the Catholic Church through the Trust Diocese will stop any works there until an independent investigation is carried out?
I appreciate the member raising this issue. I believe a licence was issued to NAC last year to archaeologically monitor test trenching at Milltown Cemetery. Trenching took place to the east and north of the existing burial plots. 28 trenches were excavated, with 9 previously unmarked burials located within 3 of the trenches. All burials were distributed and all burials were undisturbed and remain in situ. No burials were disturbed or excavated during the test trenching, and with their locations now known, they will be avoided by modern burials as the cemetery expands into this area. That's the briefing that I have received on that. If the member has further concerns, I'd be happy to discuss those with her.
Neil for a supplementary.
Well, just to inform the Minister, I have in my possession, as do others, affidavits signed by previous workers at Milltown Cemetery who have stated that they did indeed bury infants in the land that is now being reused for burial plots. So I would urge the Minister to do anything that he has in his power to ensure that those babies that are buried in those unmarked graves can rest in peace.
Minister.
Principal Deputy Speaker, can I say to the member that I understand the importance and the sensitivity of this issue. I recognise that she's raised this, so I will raise this with officials and ensure that her concerns and the concerns, I'm sure, of many others are taken seriously.
David Brooks.
Deputy Speaker, and thank the Minister for his answer so far. Could I ask the Minister what plans the Department has to advance an empty home strategy?
The member will be aware of the previous empty homes strategy that was taken forward by my department, and I think it's fair to say that the success of that was questionable. He'll be aware of the housing supply strategy that I intend to bring to the executive soon, and I believe that empty homes is something that will have to be considered as we consider housing supply all round.
Very quickly, David.
Minister for his engagement in that, and encourage him to, given the scale of the housing crisis and the issues with new developments and the infrastructure difficulties that have been talked about here today, can I encourage him to engage with all relevant stakeholders, housing associations, etc., to ensure we maximise the potential of those vacant dwellings and bring them back into use?
Yes, I'm absolutely happy to do that. We do have a intense housing need in areas right across Northern Ireland, and it doesn't make sense for homes to be lying empty. Obviously we want people in those homes. There can also often be an antisocial element to that. In fact, I was just out in my own constituency on Saturday speaking to some residents that were concerned about an empty home in their area. So yes, we should explore all options and engage with all relevant partners and departments in order to ensure that empty homes can be lived in.
That's the end of question time. Well done, everyone. Could members just take their ease to do a change at the top table?